I knew in that moment that there would be no looking back. There would be no more saying, we should be doing this, we shouldn't be doing it. I just said, move forward and follow the people.
In 1997, 35 West African women changed history. They declared publicly to their community and a group of journalists that they were going to end the tradition of female genital cutting, which their rural village, Malikunda Bambara, had been practicing for centuries. It was a courageous move by these women, who were criticized by many for making such a radical break with tradition. And it came about because of an organization called Tostan. In 1974, a young graduate student from Illinois went to Senegal expecting to stay for 6 months. Instead, 33 years later, Molly Melching is still in Senegal and has founded an organization that is transforming millions of lives. When Molly first arrived, she realized that the children had no books in their own language. With no basic education program, 80% of the country's population was functionally illiterate.
And I thought, oh my dear, what am I going to do about this? And so I started making up stories, and then I started looking into traditional stories. And I actually wrote a story myself that was then published by the New African Publishing House. And they were talking to me about how important it was to have books like this for African children. Wouldn't I be interested in staying and working on developing more books like this for children?
In addition to children's books, Molly created a weekly radio show using traditional African stories, poems, songs, and skits to inform about health and hygiene. Those early efforts expanded into a literacy program for women that later included men and adolescents as well. Holistic in its approach, the program engaged participants in local languages and focused on priorities of daily village life, again using traditional storytelling methods such as theater to convey information on health, hygiene, and problem solving. In 1991, UNICEF urged Molly to start her own NGO, so she and her band of volunteers formed Tostan, which means a breakthrough, in Wolof, and then spent the next 10 years testing and modifying teaching modules in 10,000 villages, getting feedback and then adapting the modules to the needs and desires of the communities. In the mid-90s, 2 modules that would become the main foundation of the program were added: human rights and democracy.
We discovered that all problems people are facing are human rights violations. So we decided to translate all the international documents we got, the 7 major ones, into local languages, into 7 languages, so that people can have access to those documents. When we started the human rights program, it wasn't easy at all, because people thought that human rights is a Western idea that people wanted to bring to them. But through the program, through the participations of religious leaders, imams and priests, they discovered that human rights were taught before the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And this has helped us to help people change.
The ultimate effect of these modules in particular was nothing short of astonishing. Communities ended domestic violence and the exploitation of children. Women started playing an active role in village affairs, and communities began promoting the right to health and education. And perhaps most surprising of all, a number of cultural conventions were shattered, including the centuries-old tradition of female genital cutting, or FGC. For the first time, villages and entire ethnic groups were voluntarily deciding to abandon this practice, and along with it, the custom of child marriages.
One woman, Lala Balde, said, "My daughter, I saw her next to the other girls in the village who were 9 years old, and my daughter looked like she was 6. And ever since she had that operation, she's had gynecological problems." And she said, "Can you imagine this little girl with gynecological problems?" And she said, "I knew it was my fault. I was the one who did that." And she said, "I cried that day, and we all cried." That was a turning point in the whole movement.
To date, more than 160,000 individuals have taken Tostan's courses, and they in turn educate their 3,000-plus communities, impacting nearly 2 million people. The results are dramatic reductions in infant and maternal mortality and a rise in girls' education, birth registrations, and vaccinations. Additionally, the villages have seen enormous increases in family planning, nutritional awareness, community health services, and microcredit projects. Tostan is now working in 9 African countries with materials translated into 16 languages. Its non-formal 30-month education program model has been recognized by UNICEF, UNESCO, USAID, the World Health Organization, and others for its ability to bring about social change and improve lives.
Tostan didn't tell anyone to stop female genital cutting. Tostan gave people important information that help them to raise questions. Why this? Why that? And the question that could be answered in a class were answered in the class. Those who needed to be addressed to an imam were addressed to an imam. And they finally understood that FGC is not an obligation and it's causing problems to women. And that's why they decided to stop themselves.
Over 2,600 villages in Senegal, Burkina Faso, and Guinea have followed in the footsteps of the brave women of Malicounda Bambara and publicly declared an end to female genital cutting and early marriage. Tostan expects the practice to be completely abandoned in Senegal by 2012. On August 5, 2007, the 10th anniversary of their public declaration, the women of Malicounda Bambara launched an extraordinary 5-year campaign calling for the total abandonment of FGC and early marriage in Senegal, and for a significant reduction in other African countries. Representatives from all villages that have abandoned FGC have agreed to join this initiative, which they are calling Jkabe, a Bambara phrase meaning let's unite and decide together.
The most important thing is to listen to people and follow their lead. They know where they want to go and they know how to do it. I have this vision of everybody standing up and declaring the abandonment of female genital cutting, of early marriage. I just feel that this is going to happen, and I think that we may see it in our lifetime, which would be an extraordinary thing.